Hey everyone, welcome back to the e-commerce simplified podcast powered by SpectrumBPO. So today I am joined by someone who have been doing incredible work in the retail media space. Adam, head of service delivery at BTR Media. Adam has and his team help brands scale through sponsored ad, DSP, and AMC. And what I really admire about BDR is how they blend strategy, data, and creativity. So, Adam, it's awesome having you here, man. How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful, Umar. It is a pleasure to be here. Really excited to dive into this conversation. I think there's going to be a lot of really awesome insights, and the timing is great considering we're about 2 weeks to gift buying season. So excited to jump in, and thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, Adam, for those in our audience who may not know you yet, can you share your journey into e-commerce and what led you to start BTR Media?
Yeah, so great question. So I started right out of college in the Amazon space, but on the publishing side. So worked for a small boutique publishing house out of Pennsylvania, where I'm from. Learned essentially book-specific marketing at that point, how to build listings, how to do things like promote press releases, radio interviews, etc., all while working within Amazon's native platform, doing things like helping authors self-publish, move from standard paperback to Kindle, etc., and did that for a handful of years. And was really interested in gravitating over to the product side. I figured that was a bit more lucrative, obviously a lot more deep in terms of general strategy, and that's generally a much more growing market than hardback and paperback books at this point. So started putting my feelers out and was hired by a full service agency out of San Diego. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago now. So learned every aspect of full service management, building listings, optimizing listings, creative, et cetera, and then the ad side as well, which I really gained a passion for at that time. So was handed over the ads department and started building internal trainings there. And about 2 years into that journey, I was approached by BTR Media, formerly BTR AMS, and just really liked Destiny's message to the industry, the way she was moving in terms of overall strategy, very proactive thinker. I liked the way that she would strategize and the conversations that we had. So took that leap of faith and have been here going on 5 years now.
Great, that's inspiring path. So when you started BDR, what gap in the Amazon retail media space were you most passionate about solving?
Great question. So I think retail media has changed a lot in the last few years. Search has changed a lot, and the way advertisers execute search strategies has changed a lot. When I started, specifically in PPC, there was an overarching premise to optimize towards a specific blanket ACOS, right? And that's how I was educated in the industry. And after a handful of tough conversations with brands, started to realize that maybe that wasn't the best way to go about things strategically. It was a bit too high level and not granular enough. That also coincided with Destiny's message, essentially to break out KPI by strategy, by ASIN, by ad type, et cetera, and work towards a collective unified goal versus just an ACOS target. So when I, essentially learned to speak that language, I wanted to help educate other advertisers on the proper way to execute, which is where my training and education piece had come in. Prioritized with Destiny, just building out internal trainings, making sure that we had every box checked in terms of how we run accounts, how we educate both our brands and our account directors. And it's been a sprint ever since.
Right, interesting. Solving that gap must have played a huge role in defining your team's approach and company culture, right? So interesting. So if you had to describe BTR Media's mission in one line, what would it be?
I would describe it as best, not biggest. I feel like a lot of agencies are gravitating towards, being that large conglomerate in the space, whereas we are more of a boutique agency, a much more specific, tailored offering for our brands. So really no desire to grow into this, 5,000 person company. We just want to make sure that we're providing the highest quality of service to our brands as possible, and working within the lines to do so, right? Not overloading our account directors, not taking on accounts that we believe we can't help, things like that. So being very transparent with our partners.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So simple, focus, and powerful, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So now let's talk about the broader retail media world. It's evolving faster than ever, right? So retail media has exploded in past few years. In your view, what's driving shift, and why should brands pay attention?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I think if you have worked in the space for more than just a handful of years, you can definitely feel the paradigm shift away from search and into more audience-based targeting, predictive-based targeting. I think that's where DSP and AMC have come into play. And we can kind of feel this, focal shift, right? When you go to our Amazon Accelerates, our Unboxed, Prosper, etc., there's not as much conversation nowadays in the way of search strategy as there was even 2 to 3 years ago. I feel like DSP and its year-over-year growth, I believe, was just published this week, has been a major focus for a lot of brands to start essentially climbing up the funnel and focusing more on holistic marketing and brand story versus meeting shoppers when they're already in market on a purchase intent platform. So if I were to make any predictions here on what the next few years looks like, it's going to be a lot of audience-based targeting and a lot of activity-based targeting. And my guess is AMC's capabilities are going to move more specifically into predictive targeting.
Great. And exactly. So how do you see Amazon advertising evolving compared to other platforms like Walmart, Connect, or Target's Roundel?
Great question. So, there's obviously a connection between what you're doing across each retail platform. I do believe that the majority of focus is still search specific across the majority of those platforms. But generally speaking, a lot of our larger enterprise brands where we execute across each platform, you need more of a tailored approach, right? As opposed to individual strategies at the platform level. So focusing more on, what is the brand story? What problem are we trying to solve in our respective market? And how are we communicating that across each channel? Amazon, Target, Walmart, Shopify, Instacart, et cetera.
Right, great perspective. So I think brands often forget that diversification doesn't mean duplication, right? So each platform plays differently, right? I got you. So let's dive into how BTR approaches things differently, especially when it comes to innovation and execution.
Sure. So, I'll start by saying we have been described as not necessarily a partner for a lot of our brands, but an integral extension strategically of their business. So we're not looking, to your last question's point, we're not looking at each individual platform as its own entity, right? We're thinking more holistic brand marketing, working to understand things like the brand story, what messaging we're trying to convey in the market, et cetera, and then executing accordingly, if that makes sense.
That's awesome. Right. Got you. Okay. When managing Amazon PPC and DSP together, how do you balance full funnel goals? Awareness versus conversions.
Yeah, that is a very good question and very weighted, and a subject that I could speak on for a long time. But, I'll say that there's obviously a distinct connection between upper funnel and lower funnel and how you are executing across those tactics. There is a connection between things like rank campaigns or aggressive top of search category focused campaigns in search, and how that impacts things like our remarketing pool on DSP or even AMC specific audiences. So essentially making sure that if we're pulling one lever, let's say we start on search via aggressive category outreach, we need to make sure that our DSP strategy is honed in and coinciding with that push. Additionally, things like holiday specific campaigns, right? If we're going to leverage a large audience through an awareness tactic, we better make sure that we're all over the place in terms of high category search volume keywords on the search side. So again, I think, just taking a blended approach and measuring brand lift properly. I know a lot of advertisers have historically been more focused on overall ROAS, especially when it comes to things like awareness tactics. Streaming TV is a great example. No two strategies should be optimized the same way. So just making sure that we are measuring the impact properly in order to tell the full story.
Totally agree. The right balance between upper and lower funnel can really determine long-term success. I got you. So what role does creative play in retail media campaigns? Do you see brands underestimating its impact?
It plays a huge role, especially per section of marketing funnel, right? I would say that there, across the most successful brands that we work with, creative is a huge element from the top down in terms of awareness to consideration to purchase and retention. You better make sure that your messaging is coinciding with the strategy that you're trying to achieve. As an example, if you're running an aggressive remarketing strategy for a CPG product, you better have some sort of value add, and that can be communicated through things like ad copy, strong video, imagery, etc. And from an upper funnel perspective, working to tell that brand story, working to communicate the value add across those who aren't even in market, but whose activity indicates that they may be interested in this product or brand. So I would say that creative has a massive role to play in order to get that first touch point with a potential new customer.
So true. So, okay, let's move some results-driven stories. So could you share a client story where your team helped transform their retail media performance?
Yeah, of course. I have one that sticks out in my mind. So about a year and a half ago, I had the privilege of assisting with a hard launch on Amazon for a pet food brand. So canned cat food, canned dog food. For anybody who has worked in either of those categories, that it is one of the most competitive, one of the most expensive categories to advertise in, and even to yield new shoppers, right? There's, I would say, between 5 and 10 brands of, true category leaders in the pet food space. So entering that market is a really big challenge, right? Especially when you're talking, $5, $10, $15 cost per clicks. How can you possibly remain profitable with a new product that's being sold at, $13, $14? So what we focused on for the first 6 months was not necessarily on ROAS, but on new to brand customer acquisition and ensuring that we were retaining those shoppers via lower funnel. So offering things like aggressive subscribe and save discounts, proper touch points across those who have purchased our product and maybe moved off or not come back yet. Just making sure that we have that additional visibility. All of that to say, the product sold itself. Very high quality product, real food, no additives, made in USA, everything locally sourced, et cetera, et cetera. So as this flywheel started to spin, we started to notice a greater bottom line significantly, which allowed us then to invest more in retaining and acquiring new customers at the top of the funnel. So as we spent more money in search, naturally our ROAS, our ad specific ROAS went down, right? But our total ACOS or total profitability continued to improve as we collected new customers, which allowed us to make bigger gambles. Fast forward to today, we have duplicated sort of a customer acquisition and aggressive subscribe and save strategy for every tentpole event over the last year and a half, and this brand is now over 7 figures in 1 year, and continuing to grow here through Q4. So should have additional data for you through Q4 and into Q1, but my guess is things are going to go very well for them again.
Oh, love that. Love that. Real examples like this show how strategic alignment can completely change outcomes. Okay, on the flip side, what is common mistake you have seen brands make when diving into retail media, and how do you push them through it?
Great question. I would say over focus on blanket ROAS at the account level. I think there was a time where you could get by and still continue to grow, taking that approach, but the landscape has never been more competitive than now, and it's never been more expensive than now. Amazon and search does a great job from mid-funnel down, right? But a lot of these brands who are very ROAS focused are missing the picture in terms of overall brand growth, which generally comes from awareness and new customer acquisition at the top of the funnel. You can't expect to have a 25% conversion rate on a true awareness tactic, nor can you expect to have a $5 ROAS on a true awareness tactic, right? So you almost have to break that train of thought and understand the value of those campaigns. What is it working to do? What is it impacting in terms of lower funnel? Things like branded search volume, branded conversion rate efficiency, overall traffic to store and PDPs, and just general presence in your category, right? The more traffic that you funnel into your store and into your product listings, generally speaking, the higher engagement you're going to see. And as long as your targeting is sound and you're going after high quality, likely to purchase shoppers, you should see the flywheel take effect, similar to the pet food brand that we're discussing.
Great. Okay. Yeah, it sounds like retail media is powerful, but it's not plug and play. I think it's need patience and structure as well.
I think that's a great way to frame the situation. You have to think full funnel, I think, now more than ever, in order to really hit those customer touch points across the entire funnel.
Right. Okay, let's talk about the future, right? Because the next few years in retail media are going to be really exciting. So CTV, shoppable video, in-store digital, what new ad formats excite you the most for the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, so one of the biggest rollouts and anticipations here in the next few weeks / months is streaming TV and Netflix integration. That is going to open up a massive potential shopper pool and audience pool. And it's also going to unlock a lot of data in terms of streaming to buyer behavior and what's linked between the two. So I do think that, testing things like streaming TV via Prime Video and Netflix, and then using AMC's insights to paint the full picture in terms of, okay, we're collecting shoppers here. What additional touch points are we getting until purchase, and are they coming back? I think that's the way that retail media is gravitating, and I think that's the way that retail media is going to continue to gravitate. Again, more behavioral, more predictive targeting, and less reliance on general category investment to meet shoppers where they're already intending on making a purchase.
Great. So how do you see AI shaping campaign optimization and retail media at large?
Yeah, so I think that's where a lot of the predictive targeting will come into play. I'm already seeing very subtle AI integration with things like recommended DSP targeting. We have our video creative builder available through the ad console now, where you can go and produce high quality sponsor brand video creatives in an hour versus a multi-week lift in the past. So I think that there is going to be lesser manual reliance on things like bid optimization, on finding new keywords, and generally drilling down in terms of a targeting strategy. But you're still going to need the brain power and the intuition to craft outside the box, right? AI does a great job of hitting the low-hanging fruit opportunities in advertising, but you still need to be able to tell the full story. You still need to be able to paint the picture from awareness down, and I don't think AI is there just yet.
Great. It's a great take. Okay, Adam, since SpectrumBPO works closely with seller and BTR with larger retail brands, so what advice would you give us, a seller wanting to grow into a full-fledged brand ready for retail media?
Yeah, very good question. And I think now at this point in time, it's more challenging than ever for brands to, come in and really hit a home run with a new brand launch. The landscape is extremely competitive and extremely expensive. So with that just comes, a lesser ability to gamble when it comes to brand rollouts or product rollouts. So my recommendation would be make sure everything is buttoned up prior to launch. If one thing or one aspect of being retail ready isn't quite there, you're not going to see necessarily the positive impact that you would if things were buttoned up. So as examples, things like being proactive with your listing imagery, your ad copy, or excuse me, your listing copy, title, description, bullet points, A+ content, basically all of the places where shoppers go and analyze the product and the brand. You're going to want to make sure that you're telling that story and hitting that touch point with your brands. However, if advertising strategy isn't sound and you're bleeding cash, you're going to have less money to invest there and across other areas like creative, refresh, et cetera, et cetera. So making sure that your strategy is buttoned up from the top down prior to going to market.
That's cool, Adam. Many of our seller and listener will definitely resonate with that roadmap. Okay, for our listeners running Amazon ads, right? What's one overlooked metric or that could make a huge difference in their results?
Branded search volume and how it coincides with brand lift. This is a story that I'm working to tell currently across a handful of brands where, we're seeing light year-over-year growth as far as general sales are concerned on Amazon. But when I dig into things like average order value, returning customers, branded search volume, and branded efficiency over time, a lot of premium priced legacy brands are starting to kind of trickle downward. And I think that has to do a lot with just the general shift in consumer behavior. I think consumers now more than ever are price conscious, and now more than ever, there is a saturation of cheaper alternatives really across every category, right? So if you're gonna win that sale or that conversion, you need to be making sure that you are sticky, if you will. And where that comes from in terms of a brand story, in terms of an awareness tactic, et cetera, I think needs serious consideration. And in order to do that, you need to analyze the trends of your brand itself. And that is, I think, directly reflected in things like brand search volume and branded campaign efficiency.
Love it, Adam. And if you had to pick one goal rule for PPC success in 2025, what would it be?
I'm going to keep this one high level, but remain fluid and remain flexible. To your point, retail media is changing rapidly. There are focuses now, especially across things like AMC and upper funnel video, that was not the brunt of focus even 6 or 8 months ago, right? I anticipate in the next 6 to 8 months, we're probably going to see additional, big rollouts or new industry updates that may shift the way that retail media is gravitating. So making sure that you are working towards quick adoption for these new tools and these new features, testing, and adopting accordingly. You don't want to be stuck in this siloed, linear strategy for years at a time without being adaptable and flexible.
Right, that's a perfect takeaway, Adam, and clear, actionable, and exactly what seller needs to hear. Okay, let's shift the gears and talk about your leadership. By the way, it's my personal question. So, as a head of service delivery, how do you balancing being hands-on with campaigns versus leading strategy and growth?
Great question. It is definitely a balancing act. I'll say that. I'm still hands-on keyboard with a handful of our accounts, especially ones where I'm passionate, and I need that touch point in order to stay or keep these new updates top of mind, right? Make sure that strategy in my mind is continuing to evolve. I'm still learning as I educate our team, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think that plays a big part in it, but then making sure that I have the time to dedicate to assisting our team, doing things like building new modules on rollouts like AMC, which essentially is a giant sandbox of data. There's not a lot of specific how-tos. So making sure that we're being proactive in that regard, while keeping a touch point on things like search, hands-on keyboard, upper funnel via DSP, other retail media platforms, et cetera, et cetera.
Great insight. Striking that balance is something every leader in our industry can relate to. Okay, what qualities do you look for when building your team at BDR?
So that's a great question. I would say a lot of our new hires and a lot of our old hires as well come from some sort of athletics background, which essentially led them to Amazon, right? So we need to see the passion, the industry passion, the advertising passion out of the gate. But also, you can't be afraid to make mistakes, and you can't be afraid to accept constructive feedback, right? If you are working within the priorities of the company, it's to provide the best quality of service that we possibly can. And in order to get there, everybody has to learn and everyone has to adjust, myself included. Destiny is a huge part of why I stand in this position today. And that's not to say there weren't a lot of tough conversations on things I may have been not doing correctly, maybe not thinking about correctly. So, coachable, hard worker, and general people person. You have to be able to tell the story. You have to be able to communicate face to face in order to tell that story.
Yeah, those qualities definitely explain why BDR has a such strong, cohesive culture. So, okay, what been your biggest personal learning from growing BTR Media? The personal learning, if I talk about.
Sure. My biggest personal learning would be how to adjust training based on personalities and learning styles. Very, very, very tough, thing to master. And I'm nowhere close to that. But, have had the privilege and honor of training quite a few people from the ground up who are now successful account directors, senior account strategists, et cetera. And no two people learn the same way, right? I'm a former college athlete. I learn via hands-on. I like somebody to give me a general idea and allow me to go and figure it out myself. Whereas a lot of people, don't necessarily resonate with that sort of training style. So being adaptive, making sure that we're covering all bases in terms of learning styles and giving our team the highest quality content that I possibly can in order to get there.
I appreciate that honesty. So those lessons did some home for a lot more founders and leaders listening, I hope.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, let's talk about what's next and where people can connect with you. So what's next for BTR Media, and any big initiatives or expansions you guys are excited about?
Yeah. So I'm most excited right now. Obviously we're 2 weeks away from November. So the holiday rush is coming in the blink of an eye. I'm really excited for, again, the Netflix integration and opening up that exchange via upper funnel video and how we can measure its impact via AMC. So I think AMC's capabilities are going to continue to get better and more effective, really for any brand that wants to and should be testing. And I think that general measurement across true awareness tactics is going to become a bit more clear and clean heading into next year, especially with the way AMC is gravitating. So it won't be this black box of impressions and engagement without justification to boot.
That sounds exciting and can't wait to see how that unfolds. So, where can people connect with you and learn more about your work?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. I try to keep the content coming every week. So if there are topics that you guys would like to hear more about, I'm definitely all ears and always take recommendations. Adam Malad at BTR Media. You can find any of our team under the BTR Media page on LinkedIn. You can find us on YouTube or go to bettermedia.com. We'll also be at Amazon Unboxed here in a handful of weeks. So if anybody's there and you see our team in bright orange gear, come say hi.
Perfect. And I will make sure to link that in the description for everyone tuning in. So, and finally, if you could leave our listeners and with one piece of advice about thriving in the ever-changing e-commerce landscape, what would it be?
Ensure proactivity across measurement. Again, there was a time where we could optimize entire accounts or entire campaign builds for a blanket ACOS and things were great. The landscape has changed. Make sure that your thought process is changing with it.
Great. Adam, that was absolutely incredible. I really appreciate the depth and clarity you brought today. So you shared some powerful insight on how retail media is evolving and how brands can think beyond traditional PPC. And honestly, I think a lot of seller listeners will take and walk away with real actionable ideas from this conversation. So to everyone tuning in, thank you so much for joining on eCommerce Simplified podcast powered by SpectrumBPO. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to check out BTR Media at btrmedia.com and connect Adam on LinkedIn. He's always sharing value-packed posts on Amazon, Walmart, and retail media strategy. So I am your host, Umar. Until next time, keep testing, keep learning, and keep simplifying e-commerce. Catch you all in the next episode.